it mean to build a legacy on your own terms? Welcome to Legacy Her Way, the podcast where women define, build, and live legacy on their own terms. Hi, I'm your host, Tanya Hendricks. Each week, we'll dive into real stories, fresh strategies, and inspiring conversations that help you create a future that reflects who you are and what you value most. This is about legacy, your way. So let's get started. This episode is sponsored by Huntsville Estate Planning Lawyer, where we empower your vision and secure your future through estate planning and trademarks. Let's talk legacy, her way, your way. And today's guest is someone who's building her legacy through building a community, literally downtown. Tere Richardson is the executive director of Athens Main Street. Tere started her career as a physical education teacher and coach at the middle school level before moving into the corporate world, where she became the senior manager with Ernst & Young Consulting. While at Ernst & Young, she led strategic planning, business process redesign, and large-scale computer software installation projects for clients of Ernst & Young Consulting, including J. Paul Getty Foundation, Honeywell, Cincinnati Millicron, Maytag, and other government, banking, and construction clients. Tere is a graduate of Athens State University with a bachelor's degree in education and a graduate of Troy State University with a bachelor's degree in computer information systems. Tere served as the Limestone County Churches Involved Board President for 13 years. Tere and her husband are partners in Egypt Bluff Properties, which owns and develops Brigadoon Subdivision on the Tennessee River. In addition to all of this, she's also a mom of two sons who are both settled into their own careers. Whew, that's a lot, Tere. Welcome to the show. I'm excited for you to join me today. So I just talked a little bit about you, but I want you, if there's something else that you want to share about you and your background so that folks know a little bit more about you, feel free to tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Well, I did do a couple of shifts, pivots in my career, and the funny story about how I came to be a computer programmer and IT professional from a middle school coach and PE teacher was, as I went through my degree, I got out into the teaching world and I realized that I had mistakenly thought a passion for subject matter was a passion for teaching, and it was not. I loved all things physical education oriented and sports, but when it came to working with preteens and teenagers, I knew that I was not cut out for teaching, and I have the utmost respect for teachers and everything that they do, and I think it really gave me a tremendous respect for the profession. And I always, my sons were growing up and they would come home and bemoan the fact that this teacher did that, I was always on the side of the teacher.
Well, it's great that you recognize that. You recognize that, like, this isn't for me. So you went to school, you got your degree, you jumped into a career and like, whoa, this is not for me. So you recognized that. What prompted you to go back to school for computers?
I realized, even though teaching was not for me, a lot of what you do in teaching is project management. You're managing your lesson plans. You're trying to manage your class. It's more like herding cats, but you're trying to manage that education from start to finish through that year. And you've got goals and you want to get these students to that goal. So I realized that I loved the project management piece of information systems. Also, being, in my 60s, at the time I went back to school, computers were a new thing. And, we even learned how to do computer programming with cards. It was that early in computer development. But I saw that I wanted to be able to get out into the work world. And what I had experienced in my previous career with teaching is there was a very few options when it came to physical education teachers, especially, in South Alabama where I was living at the time. So I wanted something that had lots of options. And with computers being new on the scene, I said, that's where I want to try to go. And luckily, I loved it. I loved the computer programming aspect. I loved the project management aspect. And I truly found my calling in that degree.
How long were you working in that career field?
About 10 years.
Okay. Well, what prompted you? What prompted you to pivot out of or get out of the corporate world and work in the community?
Well, my husband and I worked very hard in our consulting careers. If anybody out there's ever been it was Big Six at the time, consulting, you know how draining it is. And it's usually long 12, 14-hour days and usually 7 days a week. So part of what we did in our estate planning and our personal goals was to look at our life now, which was at the time we were working very, very hard, and say, what do we want our later chapters to look like? And we both were very, giving back to the community was very near and dear to us. We wanted to give back to our church. We wanted to give back to the community as a whole. So we worked very hard to structure our savings and the latter part of our life to where we would be able to do that and where we would be able to enjoy our children as they went through middle and high school. So I retired and started working toward that goal in our home. And then my husband retired in his mid-50s. We came back to the North Alabama area, which was my home. And that's when we really had seen that second part of our goals come to fruition. We were able to spend a lot of time in our community and in our schools. And, it was a very satisfying and fulfilling time, and still is. We were fortunate and blessed enough to be able to have health. And, some people wait for that all their life, and something happens to them or their family, and they're really not able to. We felt like we were very lucky in that aspect. My husband he spent 10 or 12 years with United Way as their treasurer and with Habitat for Humanity. I was able to go through and be board president with LCCI, Limestone County Churches Involved. That's our local food pantry.
Mm-hmm.
And for 13 years, and really, was able to enjoy that. And truly, when you find something like that where you give back, it's just like with Main Street. It gives you back more than you've put into it.
Yeah.
That is such a great feeling to be able to see that, as I say, come to fruition.
I want to get to Main Street in just a minute, but you just said so many things that I think are incredibly important for listeners of this podcast, because the podcast, we are focusing on building legacies and women defining success in our own terms and how we see things. And you just dropped several pieces of wisdom there about being forward thinking, about planning. Where did that sense come from? Because I mean, you and your husband were very intentional about what is the legacy, even though that's not the terms you were using. What is the legacy we want to live, that we want to leave? Now, we're at this point in our life. Where do we want to be at in the future? In that process, you're determining what is it that we want to leave, or how do we leave our mark on our children and on society? Mm-hmm. Where did that sense of legacy and planning come from? Is that just innate to you? Because you recognized issues when you were a teacher. You recognized that, hey, computers are the next big thing. That's the future, before other people really were. And you jumped into that. So where does that sense come from?
It absolutely comes from my parents. My parents are still with me. They're 93 and 86 and still sharp as a tack and doing things every day. My dad bush hogs and works with my husband. They restore old cars. But it really started with them because my dad was a farmer and my mom was secretary at the church. And when I was very, very small. And from the earliest times I can remember, they worked very hard, but they also recognized paths forward. They always wanted, I think, to own their own business. And that's what a farmer does. He owns his own.
Right.
But also, my dad recognized that at the time it was really too hard to make the kind of living and build the kind of wealth and life that he wanted to in farming. And a lot of farmers are able to do that and do it well. And I remember the pivot that they made. They had just bought all this irrigation equipment, and that was brand new for the time, and spent a ton of money doing this.
Uh-huh.
And the river flooded and washed all of it down the river.
Oh,
And
no.
Mother and Daddy sat on the side of a hill there and cried and said, "We love this, the way we are living, but we cannot continue to go forward with farming." So my dad took a job at a local factory as, lowest one. He said I was making $1.42 an hour
Wow.
on the line. And just fast forward through that, my mom went to Huntsville, worked in the space program, and rose to be very instrumental in the Lunar Rover project with
Nice.
working for a lot of smart people there. And, I saw her gain all this confidence and making contributions. And Daddy worked his way up through the line to personnel director at this plant, and then ultimately plant manager, and then was promoted to 3 plants, one in New York, one in California, and one in Kentucky. So,
Wow.
and I'm telling you, in a very collapsed time, there were struggles, there were ups and downs, but ultimately what happened, they retired and opened their own business in a little town in Indiana. And that town had seen a factory close. They were able to give the people in that town meaningful work. My parents are great people, and it was fun for these folks to work for them. They were able to give the local Amish community an alternative to farming because they would outsource work to the Amish.
Oh,
So
wow.
they realized their goal, which was to own their own business, and they were able then to come back to Alabama, and they have had a great retirement. We moved back to Alabama from St. Louis with the boys when they were in middle school. So we lived 500 yards from my parents, and my kids grew up knowing them and loving them, and they see them as their role models too. So that's really where I got it. And then also, my husband is the smartest man I know, and I think we learn a lot from each other and kind of balance each other. So I'd say those were my role models.
Well, how does that sense of legacy that you have inherited from your parents, that forward thinking you learned from them, that the grit and determination that you saw from them, how does that translate into what you are doing now with Athens Main Street?
One thing that I learned from them, especially watching them build their own business, is that they always treated everybody they worked with as a team. And, their philosophy was a rising tide floats all boats. So if you make people successful around you, you will become successful. And when I think about a legacy, I don't think about a legacy in terms so much as wealth. For me, it is I want to I want to leave a legacy of character and faith to my children. I would love for people to look at what we do every day in Athens Main Street and say it is, um, they're doing the right thing. They have the best interest of the community at heart, and they are appreciative to everybody that helps. And see, I always revert back to the we instead of the I, because anything that happens with Athens Main Street here is it's a result of public-private partnerships, the city, the county, the businesses that support us, and all of the super volunteers and board members. It's everybody working together that is the only way that we're able to move the city forward and make it successful.
Well, let's talk about Athens Main Street. What is Athens Main Street?
Well, Athens Main Street is an organization that revitalizes downtown in those simple terms. A Main Street organization is under Main Street America umbrella. There's an overarching organization. There's also a Main Street Alabama organization. And those two organizations are instrumental in giving us resources. Our Main Street director, Mary Hilmer-Worth, is a great lady, and she has a great staff, but I always quote her. She calls it R&D. We're going to R&D that, which is rip off and duplicate. So all of our Main Street organizations are very intentional about sharing what works and what doesn't. I actually have the new Madison Main Street director coming over next week, and we're going to sit and strategize. And they are a new Main Street designated community. And I love to share what we have seen as a success here in Athens with the Madison organization, but also just seeing another organization grow. You can learn from them as they go through. So that's what Main Street is. Now, what we do is driven by 4 points. One being design, and that would be the placemaking things we've done here in Athens. For example, we renovated Merchants Alley. It was a dilapidated, scary alley here in part of our downtown. And we were able to raise, I think 95% of our donations were from private citizens and businesses here in the area, over $200,000 to make the area. And it's full of vibrant art. And it is a place where we have concerts on every Friday night. We bring local acts in, and people gather. So we really needed a gathering spot here in downtown Athens, and that serves as that. Additionally, one of the things we did with design is we renovated the Athens Farmers Market just recently. That was opened last fall, and we completed it in March this year in time for the new market season. But that was an $800,000 renovation.
Oh, wow. And it's award-winning renovation.
That's right. Our Main Street Alabama organization gives out excellence awards every year, and we won excellence in planning and public spaces for our Athens Farmers Market. So we were really proud of that. And it is a really cool renovation. We have one of the only porous asphalt surfaces in Limestone County, and that is really good for the water table. It allows filtration of the water into our water table, and we were able to get a EPA grant that helped with a portion of that. So, um,
Nice.
and we've added a stage. So we've got lots of other organizations that are using the farmers market, just not for farmers market activities. We've had 12 rentals so far this year.
Wow.
Organizations have used it. So that's just an example of what design does. We did a streetscape project that was initiated at the time when I took over. I've been with Main Street for 7 years, and the streetscape project was huge in terms of walkability. I think if anybody has a reaction or an impression of Athens, it's, oh, it's so charming and it's
Yes.
so historic and quaint. Well, before the streetscape project, which kind of narrowed our streets, slowed our traffic down, gave us more street trees, it really did enhance that charm and that walkability. And that's really important to a small downtown, is that people feel safe and they feel comfortable walking the streets, and it's shaded. And we took down a lot of the old lighting, which in the 60s, all the downtowns put up these light poles that came over. They look like something out of War of the Worlds. They
Yeah.
took down all the historic lampposts. Well, we just reversed that. We brought back the historic lampposts because guess what? Cars have headlights, but people don't. So you need to see where you're walking.
Right.
So that really helped. But that's design. Another one is another of the 4 points is promotion. We have a calendar of events we do every year, and some of them are small in nature. We may have 300 to 400 people that participate. That, like boutique crawl. We have a lot of great boutiques here in Athens and have added a lot more. And then we'll have people come and they'll do specials and we'll do maps, that kind of thing, all the way to Fridays After Five. We just had a culmination of our Fridays After Five season, and it ended with the Velcro Pygmies. And I think we had 5,000 people in downtown listening to the Pygmies, all standing and yelling. But
I saw pictures of that. Yeah, y'all were packed.
It was so fun. And that's really become a really quality of life event. But for Main Street, it's all about ringing the cash registers for our small businesses. Because if you do the right things, people will come to your town, and businesses will want to relocate to your town. I guess it's been over the past 24 months, we've seen 10, 11 new restaurants open in the past 24 months. And in some aspects, people will say, well, you're an overnight success. No, it's been 20 years, and our overnight success has been 20 years in the making. There's been a lot of things all along the way that have built to this being a destination spot for restaurants and for boutiques. And it's taken a village to create that atmosphere and create the buzz. And I don't discount at all the fact that we have great bones in our downtown, with the square constructed the way it is, and the historic buildings still very much intact and still beautiful. That adds a lot to the atmosphere. And
it really does.
And when you've got a city council and mayor and also chairman and county commission that are working to keep it that way and to make it a business-friendly environment, then you've got a real formula for creating that kind of success. But the promotions, those are things that draw people into your downtown. And then you've got economic vitality. That point is, every week, I'll have probably 2 or 3 people that will call or come in my office and be interested in opening a business downtown. I will tell you that we have some empty buildings, but we have no vacancies downtown. And that means that we've got building owners that are not interested right now in either selling that building or renting that building.
Mhm.
Thankfully, those are very few, but we don't have a lot of open places for people to come in our downtown. So you have to have a network of, well, you might want to talk to this person, or you might want to talk to that person. So that's part of economic vitality. The other part is making sure your businesses are doing well, the ones that are there. You need to keep your hand on the pulse of, well, this retailer has just opened. How can I help them with getting more people into their doors, promoting what they're doing? And let's don't forget your retailers that have been here for, got one that's been here for 80 years.
Oh, wow.
Generational retailer, been here for 80 years, got one that's 40 years, one that's
Wow.
30. So you don't want to, just because they've been here for that long doesn't mean they don't need your help and want your help. So that's
Correct.
vitality. And then the fourth point would be organization. And that's what I was talking about earlier, where it takes a village. You know, you have an army of volunteers that will step up and help you with those events. They'll help you with those placemaking projects. We just won another award this year for our excellence in volunteer development. We have a hype.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We have a hype team, and we have over, I think there's 26 people on the hype team right now. And they help with our social media. We have over 25,000 followers on Facebook and 5,000 on Instagram. So when people want to know what's going on in our community, Athens Main Street is kind of where they go. We try to share a lot about what happens in the downtown area. But our hype team's helping that. They're also a hospitality crew, so they come to Fridays after 5 or to our events, and they
Mhm.
shirts, and they've got information for folks and make people feel welcome in our downtown.
Well, I want to ask you about the hype team. Well, actually, the hype team brings up a question I had I wanted to ask you about because I read an article that when you became the executive director of Athens Main Street, you actually reached out to teenagers. You reached out to some high schoolers to get their viewpoint. So when you talked about hype, I was immediately started thinking about young people, teenagers. What prompted you to reach out to the teenagers? I mean, I know it takes a village, and it's usually when we think about it taking a village, we're thinking about other business owners, we're thinking about the mayor, we're thinking about the council, we're thinking about the commission. What prompted you to reach out to the teenagers to get their perspective?
Well, the teenagers are going to be our brain trust. You know, they are going to be our talent pool. And if we want to keep them in our communities and not see them, go off to Huntsville or to Nashville or Birmingham or wherever, we need to be making sure we're listening to the things that they want. And one thing that came out of that session 7 years ago was we'd really like to have, better places to eat downtown. Well, yay, look what we've done, and but to create that, there's a whole list of things you need to do to make that area vibrant so people will want to relocate here and want to have those places, and the places will want to come here. But yeah, the reason the teenagers were one of my target markets is because we were seeing 10, 12 years ago, a real exodus of our young people after they got out of high school or got out of college. They were relocating to other areas. Well, we want that. I mean, that's your creative time in your life. When you get out of college to, your late 30s, we want you here in Athens doing great things. And now we've got great things for you to do on your own time. And we've got a lot of good companies that are relocating. Our Limestone Economic Development Association, they're doing great things. They're bringing more companies in, and they're wonderful places for these young people to work once they get out of college. So yeah, we'll listen to those young people because they're our future.
And that goes back to you being forward thinking. Not many people would think about that. So, um, what makes Athens so special? I mean, what brought you back to Athens, and what makes it so special that you wanted to now, move into a career working with with Athens Main Street? And you've been the one for 7 years.
Athens is how do I describe it? It's the quintessential small town America. Even though we have a lot of people coming into our city, we still know each other and we get to know each other, get to know the new people that come in. We've just always been that way in Athens. It's been a very welcoming place. And I wanted that for my children. We they grew up in St. Louis, and that was a wonderful experience for them. But our immediate neighbors and the people they went to school with were really the only people, and then the people at church. We were making inroads, but I didn't know those people's stories. It was more of a superficial kind of uh, relationship. So when we moved back here, I guess I was looking at the way I grew up and the knowing the people that my parents knew and my grandparents knew. It was comforting to me, and that's why Athens was special then, and why it's special now is that everybody is excited. And I say everybody. Of course, you have your naysayers.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yes, of course you do. Well, it's not like it used to be, and it's not. But if you don't think about your growth, it's going to happen to you anyway. So let's grow it the way we want it to look when we get there. We can't control how rapidly we're growing, but we can control the way we grow.
Yes.
That's where most everybody heads at in our area. Let's grow in the way that we want. We want to look at how we want to be in 10 years and plan that and then execute against that plan. Athens, City of Athens just did a 2040 comprehensive master plan. And it's not a plan that's going to sit on the shelf. Our planning department has already taken that plan and they're redoing the city ordinances against what that strategy said. And the way they created that plan was through a lot of charrettes, public charrettes, where they brought in different parts of the community, got input, and said, "What do you want? What do you want to look like in 20 years?"
Mm-hmm.
I'm very excited about what's going to happen in 20 years here. A lot of good things are in store for Athens, and if they execute against that plan, it will continue to grow in a great way.
Well, I know that you attribute the success of Athens Main Street to a village. You're not accepting the credit yourself, even though you're, the head of the Athens Main Street, you're executive director. But I do think, I mean, you have left your mark. Definitely left your mark. When you became the executive director back in 2018, did you realize the type of legacy that you were building or would be building and leaving for Athens?
I had no idea. Athens Main Street is next year, and we're going to do a big party. We're going to be 20 years old.
Wow.
It started as Spirit of Athens almost 20 years ago. And it was a group of, it was public works guy and a group of concerned citizens and retailers. And there was no such thing as Main Street, Alabama at the time. There was Main Street America. And they went to some areas that had main streets and said, let's model the Spirit of Athens against Athens Main or against Main Street organizations. So they were really forward thinking in what they were putting together.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was the director their first director, Trisha Black, did a fantastic job. She's the assistant state director now with Main Street, Alabama. So she did a great job putting us on a path of making it more Main Street like. So when I came into that, the organization had kind of struggled for a couple of years, and they were close to shutting their doors here. And I spoke with Tricia and her husband Shane Black, who is also very passionate about a great downtown,
Mm-hmm.
and where the organization was and how I could potentially help. And they were so encouraging and so passionate about it. And see, I don't live in the city of Athens. I live out on the Tennessee River, but from growing up here, it was still near and dear to my heart.
Yeah.
They encouraged me to talked to the board president at the time, who was Doug Gates, who has since passed away. Our Athens Farmers Market at Doug Gates Park was named for,
Oh,
and he was he had a Raymond James franchise here in downtown Athens, and he has the best story about downtown Athens. And he was telling me, and he'd tell anybody that would listen about it. He said, in the 80s, early 90s, even later on, I'd come out of my office on a Friday night to get in my car, and I could throw a rock in any direction and not hit a soul or a car on a Friday night at 5 o'clock. Now, on a Friday night at 5 o'clock, you have a hard time getting a parking place. And
nice.
I got chills. So, that's what we were after. And
Mhm.
thankfully, he saw a lot of that. He hasn't been gone long, but he saw a lot of the successes that we're doing. But that, to me, is the importance of a Main Street organization. And I had no idea it would grow the way it has. And I think that it was a perfect storm is not really the analogy I want to make, but we were growing, the county was growing, the city was growing, and I saw an opportunity to get on board with that and to make some plans for what our organization wanted to do. Have a great board that supported us all
Mhm.
along the way. So to say I'm as surprised as anybody is a little stretch, but I really am surprised. Everything has grown and been as successful as it has. It's been a lot of hard work on
Mhm.
a lot of fronts.
Well, and I know you're not going to toot your own horn, even though you did mention one award, but y'all just won 4 different awards from
Mhm.
Alabama Main Street.
Yep.
So quickly tell us about those. And I just want to point out, I mean, this is people with Alabama Main Street, so the overall organization for the state, who recognize Athens Main Street and all the successes that Athens Main Street has had. So this isn't just people within Athens saying great job. I mean, this is people statewide who came to Athens who see what's happening and gave y'all a award. So tell us about the awards.
Okay. Main Street, Alabama, every year does awards of excellence, and that organization, Main Street Alabama, is so supportive. And I think that I just want to really tout their horn. They do a great job of not only giving us resources and giving us the ability then to express thanks to our community and to enjoy the successes we have had by these awards. But they are also seasoned people in the Main Street world.
Mhm.
And I can call up either Trisha or Mary and say, "Oh my gosh, can you just listen to me for a while and tell me what to do?" and give me some advice. And they're great to do that. So kudos to Main Street, Alabama. But our awards, the Farmers Market, excellence in planning and public spaces,
Mhm.
the Hype Award, excellence in volunteer development, and a third award that I'm really proud of too was the excellence in business development, which when the tornado hit our downtown in December, we saw. I remember when the sun came up that morning, it was just devastation all around downtown. It was hard to tell what had been damaged because roofs had been blown off and it was all in the street. And a 200-year-old tree had been torn down, and that was in our gathering area. That was our festival street.
Yeah.
Um, it it took it was a public-private partnership that was just so outstanding. Our city and our county and Grayson Carter and Son, a lot of our restaurants, Salty Cod, Bojangles, they all came together and fed people and got those streets clean. The streets were clean and passable by Monday afternoon. That was on a Saturday night when it hit, and we were able to open up. But of course, people who are in the community know that this is going to devastate our small businesses.
Yeah.
And they wanted to help, they wanted to volunteer, they wanted to donate. So we immediately set up a fund that would help with that. And what became very clear was that some donors wanted to help the small businesses. Some donors wanted to help recreate that gathering area and the public space. So we divided the funds into two, and the award we won was the award for the businesses, helping them. Now, businesses will have their insurance coverage, but what a lot of people don't realize, unless you own your own business, is that business interruption insurance is extremely expensive, and the deductibles can be upwards of $25, $30, $40,000.
Oh, wow.
And for a small family business to say, two of our businesses were they were totally devastated. They were out of business for 3 months. Now,
Wow.
how can you how can you continue with that? What we were able to do is give $10,000 grants to two of our businesses and smaller grants to two others that were out for quite a while. So
That's incredible.
that was all from the generosity of the other businesses that, there by the grace of God go I. They
Yeah.
not suffer losses, but they donated, and over 70 individuals donated to that. So
Wow.
that was the other one. And then our fourth award was for our Main Street Hero. And our Main Street Heroes this year, the local communities are able to name their hero. And we named the City of Athens Public Works. They've done a tremendous job for us. They are a really hardworking group. They're improving all the sidewalks. They helped with the Athens Farmers Market, putting in sidewalks, putting in curbing, improving the drainage. They also, that the sanitation department is part of Public Works. And you have not seen a mess until you have seen a Fridays After 5 when everybody leaves. And, you can order trash cans, and they bring me plenty of trash cans and dumpsters. But when everybody leaves, you're like, oh gosh. And 11 o'clock at night, here comes the sanitation crew through. And by the next morning, the Saturday morning shopping crowd never knows anything happened downtown.
Nice. Very good.
Do a great job. I
Very good.
got to honor them at the city council meeting last night. And I guess probably over 20 showed up.
Nice.
And so it was a lot of fun.
Well, what's next for Athens? What's coming up in the end of 2025? Kind of what's coming up in October, November, December-ish.
Yes, this is our big season. I say that like we don't do every season's a big season, but Christmas is coming up. What's going to happen in the next 4 months will be the restoration of the courthouse grounds that were so decimated. We'll take the funds that have been donated, and our design committee has created a really cool design. We're going to do the grass festival steps on that side of the courthouse, and that'll be and then plant more shade trees and bring in the picnic tables and umbrellas and things that were damaged. So that's going to go on. Additionally, we have several events that we do. We're just culminating Culinary Month here in Athens. So we're celebrating all of our great restaurants downtown. And this weekend, we will do summer sipping. So this will be the culmination of the summer. But then in October, we're partnering with Athens Limestone Tourism, the Athens Limestone Chamber, and Athens Main Street, and we're hosting the Southeast Regional Tourism Conference. So we'll have over 300 tourism professionals that will come to Athens during the month of October, and we're going to have some education sessions. We're going to do some tours, and just really let everybody explore downtown Athens. So that'll happen. Then in December, if you have not been to Athens and experienced our Christmas parade, I highly advise everybody to come try to do that. If you were not in the parade, watching the parade, or putting the parade on, then you are certainly homebound, because everybody in the county will be there doing
Nice.
it. It's over an hour and a half long parade.
Wow.
And it goes all the way from the middle school, high school, down through downtown Athens to our almost to 72. So it's a 3-mile parade.
Wow.
And
Wow.
It's a lot of fun. Yeah, there are a lot of tractors, but there are a lot of cool floats, and anyway, it's a lot of fun. Then in November, we also have Sip and Cider, and that's one of our biggest events. We created it to ring the cash registers, help ring the cash registers for our downtown merchants, and bring people in for that last blast of shopping, Christmas shopping. But it has turned into a really fun event. I'll have over 40 participating businesses. They'll create their own special cider recipes.
Okay.
And people go from business to business. I do maps, and they'll have specials in their businesses, and they will vote on their cell phones, QR code, for their favorite ciders. And I can tell you, it's a big competition.
Really?
For the cider cup. Yep. And
Nice.
there's some great recipes too.
Well, for those of you listening, be sure to check out Athens Main Street. Go to Athens, and we need our businesses, our small businesses, to succeed. And in order for them to succeed, we have to spend our money there. I know some people will say, well, it's more expensive to do that than to go to this other place. Well, the people that are in your small businesses, they're the ones actually supporting your community. So if you're giving money to a small business, that's going to pay their bills, but also to go support, your children's sports teams, doing the ads in your yearbooks. We get hit up as business owners, we get hit up all the time for, will you give money to this or to that? If you don't give us the money to give away, we can't. So support your small businesses. Go to Athens Main Street, support them. And you heard Terry talk about Madison Main Street is getting started. They're just kind of getting off the ground. So if you're in the Madison area and you have a passion for helping Madison and you want to see Madison Main Street kind of grow and promote the businesses there, be sure you check out Madison Main Street. I'm in South Huntsville. I'm a part of the South Huntsville Maine Business Association. I'm actually on that promotions committee you talked about. And so there are different main streets, depending on where you live, that you can actually get involved with and help those small businesses and help maintain kind of that small town feel while also promoting businesses and helping the area grow. So one last question I have for you, Terry, and we're going to have to wrap it up. You have accomplished so much. You've pivoted here, you pivoted there. Do you have a piece of advice for a woman who's listening, or something that you wish more women knew that they could do? Maybe something you're doing now that you wish more women knew they could do, or something you've done in the past that you wish more women knew they could do?
Sure. Two things that I'd like to leave women with. And one thing that I think, are guilty of is trying to be everything to everybody. And you don't have to be. And it takes a long time sometimes to learn that. Set your boundaries and say no. You don't have to be everything to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Be kind, though. You can be kind and say no, and people will understand. And I guess secondly, I would say, if you have a passion, don't let go of that passion, but also don't feel like that passion has to be your life's work. You can
Mm-hmm.
you can incorporate that passion in your life in other ways, but just don't lose sight of it. Um, Athletics and physical education were always my passion, and I continue to make that part of my life. And I feel like that makes me a healthier, happier person.
Mm-hmm.
And, some people it's crafts. And my sister-in-law does a wonderful, she's a youth director at our church. And, she's always making beautiful crafts and doing wonderful things. And that is so not me. And I so respect that. But that's her passion.
Mm-hmm.
And she's able to enjoy that, and it enhances and enriches her life. So whatever that passion is, don't let go of it. Just figure out how to incorporate it in your life in another way.
Very good. Very wise. And again, y'all, please go out to Athens and visit their downtown. Patronize their downtown, the businesses around the square when they have the cider competition. That sounds like fun, and obviously the Christmas shopping and the Christmas parade. All right, I want to thank you all for joining me on Legacy Her Way. If today's conversation spoke to you, share it with a friend and make sure you are subscribed so you never miss an episode. Want to keep building your legacy beyond the podcast? Contact me at Huntsville Estate Planning Lawyer. But this has been Legacy Her Way. Share it, subscribe, and most of all, keep defining your legacy your way. Thank you all.